Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Conversations Under the Hood with your host, Robert Helm. And tonight we have Dr. Lidway Helm, co host, as well as Mr. Robert Green. So we're very excited to come to you this evening to have another conversation about the business of family. And last week we discussed the same subject, which I think we had some great nuggets after the fact. Everybody seemed to have I think one piece of advice that we was hoping that the viewers, the live viewers, and then people who came maybe after the fact, could have got something out of. So I'm gonna just recap real quick. I know that one of the things, and y'all have to correct me because I didn't put down who said what, but I remember kindness was yours, right?
Yeah.
So kindness, that was one of the key things that we discussed last week, and I think that's something that we should bring back to the table because I know that's a huge factor in all aspects of business as well as family and personal relationships. And I believe yours was being true.
Right.
Yep.
Sincerity.
Yep.
So just being true to yourself and others as well.
Exactly.
But it starts with you.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Okay. And then our other co-host, George Sanchez, who is not with us at the moment, but he will be coming in a little bit later on in the show. He had, I think his key point was mentorship, right? He talked about finding somebody who is doing what you want to do or what you are doing that can help you, lead you past some of the barriers and things that you might face. And then finally, my contribution, which was a little different than everybody else's, but it's a piece that I found that is really important, at least in my life, and I see other people's life that could probably benefit from some of the same things. But ultimately, what that was taking notes, for the things that you need to do, whether it's daily, weekly, what have you. But that way you can stay on task. You can stay on track of getting the things that you want to get done. Because I know if you have a busy life or family life, it's easy to forget important things. So those were the four nuggets that we had last week. And so we're going to get tonight kicked off. Is there anything that you all want to add to any of those four points before we move on to tonight's show?
I think we can move forward. I think we can use that for a base.
Okay.
Yeah, there is a lot to cover just in those four things alone. So.
Indeed.
Yeah. Speaking of.
Huh? Now y'all want some paper. You see here?
You talk about taking notes.
I'll give you a little piece.
I want a doodle. I want a doodle.
In the little seat over there.
All right.
I want a doodle.
Okay. All right. Good job. So here we go. We were talking about taking notes, and this is a perfect, I think a perfect thing to do. I know for me, I remember early on when I was interviewing, trying to get jobs. Matter of fact, back in Baldwin, back in our teenage days, that was something I can't remember. Seems like it was one of my teachers or someone who said that it's always good to show up with a piece of paper and a pencil because it makes you look studious. Even if you don't write anything on the paper, it gives people the impression that you're serious about what it is you're doing. So here I am several years later seeing that piece of advice was, I think, a very valuable piece. So I'm glad that
now everybody's showing up with laptops and palm tops. And
Yeah.
so it's no longer a piece of paper.
well, exactly. I mean, we
but-
can use our
yeah.
phones for notes and things,
But
but
when you put in the work of actually physically writing it down, it does something to your mental. It automatically logs it in
Yeah.
versus just seeing it on the computer screen or written down for you already.
Yep.
When you
Right,
actually go
right.
through the motions to write that down, you're
I
actually
agree.
telling yourself as you're writing it, I better do this. I need to
Right.
do this. I
Yeah.
have to do this. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. And there's something about that, man, that I don't know. I try to, when I really want to know something or remember something, I try to close my eyes and visualize it. You know what I mean? And I figure if I could really just capture what it is that, that I'm imagining, I guess, vividly, that it's a lot easier for it to manifest. So.
Yeah.
So anyway, again, tonight's subject, and I think the core subject of Conversations Under the Hood, I know we've all kind of talked about it individually, but it might be a good time for us to let our viewers know that we've kind of changed up our format we still are open to any questions or any comments that anyone might have. But initially, our strategy was going to be to, post one of the questions that is posed by the audience, and then that would be our conversation point when we were just talking about strictly business and entrepreneurship. And so now that that's not the case, we're still talking business, we're still talking entrepreneurship, but we're adding family into the mix of that. And so I definitely want to make sure that we have interaction if we can with the audience, because your input is definitely very useful. So at getting the word out, right, to others. So I'm gonna open it up to both of you all. And is there any things that you think you would like to just kind of put out there today for the people that we do have watching? Maybe something that you experienced during the week, something on the job, maybe at home in your own family life. Is there something maybe that you learned during this week that could be useful to someone else?
Yeah, so I'll start. And I'll start with the nugget that we talked about last week, right? Kindness. Actually, I had a meeting with one of my colleagues, and she was sharing how kind my supervisor was to her, and how my supervisor helped her. And when she thanked my supervisor was like, you know what? You made it easy. You did this yourself, and I thank you for being such a dedicated, employee, if you will, and everything that you've done. But I'm sharing this to say that I saw how much it resonated, with my colleague and what it meant for her. And she started mentioning that she's been with our organization for over 40 years. So in all those 40 years, that was like almost the first time somebody was so sincere and kind in helping her. Wow. So that kindness is free, and it really resonates, and it really goes much further than what a lot of people think. It's definitely far-reaching.
And it just made me think of something.
Yeah.
One thing about kindness is it's contagious.
Right.
To those that receive it, and those that envy you and they try to find something bad within you, they don't seem to. It won't rub off on them. But kindness is contagious to people that want to be like that want that kindness and want to give that kindness.
Right.
And so that's very important when it comes to socializing with people and starting business and all that stuff. I think that's I agree with all that you just said, and I can see that's a big point of view.
Yeah. And most importantly, it's free, and it's so easy to be kind. To extend kindness, and you just never know. And the universe has a very interesting way of rewarding you, but it is even better if you just do it because it's something that sincerely comes from your heart, regardless of whether there's reward or not.
Right.
Because I think for myself, I definitely have a list of people that were super kind to me when I was young, growing up in South Africa when they didn't even have to.
Right.
But they were kind, and I hope to return the favor, when I return home, to look up those people, and thank them, personally.
Right.
Yeah, well, kindness, just matter of fact, when you talk about it like that, I just think of situations in my own life where maybe I wasn't having the greatest day or what have you. And sometimes when you're having a bad day, you kind of isolate yourself, emotionally, I guess.
Right.
When you're around other people, like, I don't know about that, that kind of stuff. But I do recall times where I kind of be dwelling in my own world and feeling a little cranky or what have you, and somebody come by and say hi, in passing, and it might not even be anybody I know, or maybe somebody I've never even seen before, but just that breaking up that moment of focusing on what's not going right to something that's more brightening, something that's more kind, as you say. I don't know. Have you experienced that where you just, you having a bad, and somebody just says something, and you just, all of a sudden it just feels like they raised all that weight off your shoulders?
Yes.
Yeah. So.
Absolutely, because you just never know what somebody is going through, and just a little sprinkle of kindness, you can, literally just make somebody's day,
right.
even change somebody's life. I remember, my younger days when I was going to community college, trying to get education, start my career, start shaping my life. I had a professor one time. He just came to me. He's like, Lindywear, I've been seeing you in this campus for like more than 2 years now. What's going on? Let's sit down and take a look at all the classes that you've taken so far. Let's see what's going on. And sure enough, he looked at everything. He's like, do you realize that within a year, you can have your bachelor's degree? He said, we have all these programs. You've taken enough classes that now you can transfer, to Northwood University, for instance, and I will help you with that. He absolutely had nothing to gain, but he just saw a young student who seemed to be very serious but unguided, maybe unfocused. Because to me, it was just like, just go to school. One day you're going to be successful.
Right.
But what measure, what is going to get me there, it wasn't clear because I was so young. And really, I wanted to be an actress. But I knew that I also had to take other classes. And so just that alone was the beginning of my career, right, in computer science, if you will. And, and I owe it to him, a lot in terms of like helping me focus, And it takes people like that who just care about the success of others and extend, a hand. So he had the knowledge. And then he wanted to make sure that he shared. If I remember, I think it was Professor Grether, that name comes to mind. And, and I'm very thankful, for him because after I got my bachelor's degree, then I got a first really good job with a salary. And from then on, I just kept growing. But it started with that professor, wanting to extend kindness.
Right.
Yeah.
That's awesome. That's really awesome. Yeah, so I would agree that those, three, I would say key things, the being true, being kind, and having a mentor. It sounds like, there's a little bit of that in everybody's story. Somebody that mentored them a little bit, somebody who was kind to them a little bit.
Right.
And then I think that being true piece is you kind of following through with all of that you've been exposed to taking it to the next level. So that's awesome. I think that's really exciting. So, all right, well, that's good. All right, well, there was a few things that I was hoping to discuss today, and we kind of, really want to. What's that?
Starting expanding with the nuggets.
Yeah, well, no, because the nuggets are good. They lead us into, one of the other things that I wanted to talk about in terms of family and in terms of business, right? And that's core values, right? Like principles that are like your guiding principles of your relationship or of how you do business, those kinds of things. And so that's something that I kind of wanted to open up a little bit of a conversation about as to either what core values do you think are important in, and universal, right? Because again, we talking about the business of family and keeping those two in perspective and realizing that to be successful in business or to be successful in family, it requires really the same principles. Not necessarily everything, but a lot of the same principles, because you're still building a team when you're building a family or when you running a business. So what are your thoughts on that, Dr. Hammond?
I will say the first one that comes to mind to me is integrity. Thank you. Fuzzy. Fuzzy integrity. No, integrity. And what I mean by that also is that doing the right thing at all times, even when it doesn't benefit you. If you just commit to try to do the right thing, being honest, telling the truth, even when it doesn't benefit you. Right. I think it's so important, and so committing to have that integrity, it goes a long way. And I think that it gets to the point where when people are around you, that's what they know you to be, right? And they know what to expect from you. Right. They know that no matter what, this is the person who's going to, at the minimum, try to do what's right. At the minimum. And a person with integrity, when you try to do something that you think is right at the moment, and if the results are not, so flattering or are not, as beneficial to more people other than yourself, to go back and say, you know what, I was wrong and I want to do it better, and here's what I'm going to do next time. Which is going to benefit more than just me in this equation.
Right.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And it requires you to be constantly aware of how you impact or affect other people around you. So if you're in a position of authority, it allows you to even use that authority to benefit others, right? To look out for others,
Right.
and what have you. Yeah. So that will be my
Everything that you guys just touched on. You just painted a picture of Mr. and Mrs. Helm.
too kind. So you
No, and I mean, I'm not saying that, but I'm just in truth, because all those things that you just said are things that I see within you guys, and what I see that I want to be like, things that I want to mimic, and things, you know what I mean? So everything that you just touched on is what I see as a whole in you guys, with the company, with everything that you've accomplished, man, all your accomplishments and everything you have accomplished. I feel like I couldn't be in a greater place to learn and thrive, and so I'm glad that we're having this so we can share this, because these two right here has really, really helped me out. Excuse me, I'm tearing up here. Hold on. Tremendously, and I mean that with everything. I mean, if it wasn't for them, no telling what my situation would be, where I would be right now. And I surround myself with nothing but positivity, because I don't go anywhere. I just come here and go home. So but man, that's serious. I try to stay out the spotlight. I do what I have to do, what's necessary, and do things in the path of growth. And I appreciate you guys, man. I really do.
Hey, well,
I
that's
said that last time, but
Thank you.
it's important to, right? I guess pay tribute to those things that have been life changing or moving for us, right? So yeah, I have those, some of those same types of experiences. And matter of fact, that kind of moves us on to another point that with core values. So all right, before I jump out of that, let's try to identify 5 core values that we think are, good starting points for families or businesses to consider, because other people might have different things that are important to them. But let's try to come up with 5 real quick core values that hopefully are also something that applies to business and or family. So either one of y'all first.
I can think of 2.
Okay.
Love and loyalty. You have to love what you're doing to have the passion for it.
Okay.
I would say loyalty, because you have to be loyal to your if you're starting a business, you have to be loyal to everybody around you, your customers, your workers, yourself, and that's with family or business.
Right.
Like love and loyalty. Love being the first one, because everything else falls under love.
Right.
In my eyes.
Right.
So I would say love and loyalty as my 2.
Yeah, and that can be together. I would say honesty too, and that goes back to your nugget from last week. If you commit to be honest with yourself, to be honest with everybody, around you, including our kids, right? I think that goes a long way. And honestly, if you're a person of integrity, obviously you have to be honest.
Right.
You are an honest person, So what's your third one? Or
Well,
fourth one?
I think, we said loyalty, we said love, and what was yours?
Honesty.
Honesty, okay.
Integrity.
So, yeah, honesty and integrity are very, very important. And I actually wrote down a couple of them.
And with honesty, while you look for yours, it's like we're in the business of serving our customers, right? Whether we're remodeling their houses, whether we're buying their houses,
Hey.
or what have
How's
you.
it going?
Good
How's
evening,
it going?
sir.
Mr.
Good
Sanchez.
evening.
Hey, I don't want no smoke. This is not a boxing match. This is
How's everybody doing?
Great, how about you?
Good.
Good.
Well, hey, welcome to the live show, because we are live.
We are live.
Hey, and let's take a moment right quick for everybody who got a phone and a social network. Let's share this out right quick. If you can here, I'm trying to figure out how to do this. Okay, it's already there. Okay, great. Sweet. All right, so I can share that. So, man, how was the drive over, Jojo?
Actually, it wasn't too bad.
Yeah.
All right, highlights. Share now. Okay, boom. Yeah, so it should be easy to share, y'all, because it's up on the page. Okay.
All right.
So yeah. Anyway, Jojo, we were just talking about core values for business and for family. And right now we were. What did we get? We had love, we had honesty, and
Integrity,
and there was one more you said.
loyalty,
Yeah, loyalty and integrity. Yes.
honesty.
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
I agree.
I mean, there's so
like,
many of those.
Since
yeah,
we're talking
honest. Being honest is so
essential.
key.
Yeah.
Yeah.
so key.
Yeah.
Like,
one we should have added to that was respect.
yeah,
Respect.
for sure.
Well, hey,
Yes.
well, this is an open
sure.
conversation because I have respect right there.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
So it's
Mhm.
on my
Sure.
list.
Well, if you have it and I have it, and it's
Yeah.
written down more than once, then it
Yeah.
must be true.
Yeah,
Yeah, I know, right?
for sure.
Mhm.
Uh,
Yeah.
What any other ideas as far as like core things that you think are important to have a solid family foundation or business foundation?
Like my main thing is being honest, dude. Like that word right there alone
Yeah.
takes you a long way.
Absolutely.
Because I mean,
Mm.
no matter if you're wrong,
Mm-hmm.
just be honest.
Right.
Right.
You take responsibility for your own wrongs, or no matter what, just take responsibility.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Being responsible, whatever you do, wrong or right, you're responsible for it.
Right.
Okay.
You take full responsibility of what you do.
Right.
Mhm.
So the one that I would add that I don't think I've heard yet is accountability.
That's a very
Accountability,
for
and
sure.
they all kind of, I think, kind of touch,
All
Yeah.
of it.
Yeah, but
Mhm.
accountability is really important to me because, in the business side of things, especially,
Yeah.
because we have the tendency to not want to be responsible for stuff that is not ours, right?
Mhm.
Like going to work, if you don't finish something, like, unless
Yeah,
you're gonna lose a
accountability
job,
is a
or
huge
you're
one.
just kind of like, I'll get to it tomorrow, kind of thing.
Yeah.
But being accountable for the things that you do, the things that you say,
Mm-hmm.
I think that's essential to being trustworthy, right? To
Mhm.
having integrity,
Trust.
to
Yeah.
to having all of the other core values that we have highlighted. So
Yeah.
so let's do this real quick. Let's go over, if you would, Dr. Helm. Can you give us that laundry list of
the core values,
Yeah,
the
of
guiding
core values,
principles. So we have integrity, love and loyalty, respect, responsibility, trustworthy.
Accountability.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And I put in here innovation, but that's neither here nor there. And I like all of them. Accountability, which is the last one that you were mentioning. But accountability is also holding yourself accountable.
Yeah. Yeah.
And being brave enough to hold others accountable.
Yeah.
Because when you hold people accountable, you help them be better,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And when you hold yourself accountable, then you commit to your integrity. If you say, I'm going to do this thing, and you don't do it, at the minimum, at least come and apologize. Hey, I wanted to do this, I didn't get it done. My apologies, next time I'm going to organize my schedule better.
right?
And then that way, everybody always
Yeah.
know what
Hold
to
yourself
expect
accountable
from
for
you.
everything. Yeah.
Right. You
That's
hold yourself
so
accountable.
key. So key on
Right.
anything on everyday life.
Right. That's
You gotta
right.
hold yourself accountable.
Yeah. And
Absolutely.
some things are not so obvious, right? Even if you want to hold yourself accountable. Let's say, for instance, my husband tells me something, or any of my friends tell me something. I know logically it doesn't make any sense. It cannot be possibly true. But, I'm so caught up into whatever the topic is because one is entertaining, maybe even validating, or maybe even making you feel good about yourself.
Right.
So instead of holding, your colleague, your friend, whoever accountable to be speaking the truth, you sit there and listen and even participate to it and walk away. And then, when other people find out that the conversation took place, then it just complicate, the whole relationship. So holding myself accountable, for instance, and it takes bravery and commitment to integrity, as I said before, to be like, hey, I'm really not going to participate in any kind of conversation that will impact other people negatively.
Right.
You know, and that takes a certain kind of commitment and catching yourself when you're doing that. And secondly, when you yourself is trying to pass on information that you know is not going to be helpful, you know, it's not going to build, it's going to destroy.
Right.
So no matter how tempted you are, you know, work on that integrity, you hold yourself accountable. And then if you make that mistake, it's always even better, and is being trustworthy and honest, you know, as we say here at Covell, is to reach out, you know, to whoever and say, hey, when I said this, I know it must have hurt you or offended you, and for that, I'm sorry. I want to get better. I will never do it again.
Right.
You know, and that's just basically choosing to be a good human being.
Yeah.
You know, in my
Yeah.
view.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. You have anything you want to share? Say?
That was, I mean, she hit it right on the nose. I mean, I think she hit it right on the nose.
Yeah.
It has a lot of, you gotta have dignity, you know. You gotta be,
But you know what? I think one thing to kind of add to that is when portraying those core values, if you will, I think another important part to mention is like and especially when it comes to your integrity and stuff like that. Sometimes we allow things to happen that will question your integrity.
Yeah.
So you haven't done anything, you haven't said anything, but you've allowed something to happen.
Right.
Yeah.
And haven't been an active participant in maybe preventing it or resolving it, what have you. You know what I mean? And so, and I just think about some conversations that we done had recently, right? Where you know, people have like a shock value almost when you allow somebody to do something for so long, and then something happens that's just out of the world, and then you're just like, oh my God, I can't believe that you did this or that you said this.
Yeah.
But then if you just take a moment and kind of dial back, you
Yeah,
see
yeah.
that there's a history.
you allowed it.
Yeah, it's a history of that. So, you know, and that's not necessarily speaking to your integrity as much as unless that is building up for somebody else to be hurt, kind of. You know what I mean? But yeah, I think that's a real important thing to mention.
Oh wow, that it reminds, because we do the bullying prevention. You know, this banner behind me, that's what I'm pointing at, and it's so interesting because a lot of bullying victims, what they remember the most, at least the ones that we've interacted with, or the people that share their stories with us, is that they find it very hard to forgive people that they perceive to have power and could have protected them and stopped being, you know, the bullying, you know, but they did nothing. You know, though a lot of people are so upset with those people that they bully, you know, him or herself. If people that are being bullied, they perceive you to be in a position of authority, or somebody stronger who could have stopped, you know, that, but you didn't. You looked away. You enabled it, you know, in their view.
Yeah, like he said, like let things happen.
Let things happen, right? And it's so interesting. And those are the kind of people now, you know, years later, when they come and share these kind of stories, and then they will talk about a teacher, a relative, or friend, or somebody who did not defend them, who did not come to their defense and just allow, you know,
Yeah, like let it happen.
let it happen. Yeah, that's something that is really hard to get
Sometimes
over.
that other person, you don't know if that other person just waiting, just knows you could do something. He's like waiting for you to step in or something.
Take me back to being a kid, you know,
Yeah.
and being on the playground, you see somebody getting bullied. Sometimes because your friends or who your crowd may be, it may appear that you may be weak. You may think that, you know, being a kid, you may seem like, oh, they're going to think I'm weak if I try to go defend this person because the masses of people don't like this person. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Maybe there's a group of people that
They
think we
want
don't
to
like that
join
person.
into
So
the
by that person feeling like they want to be with the masses of people that, you know, they won't go defend that person because of what people are going to think. You know what I mean? And that's one of the things that I think causes people not to go defend people in a situation like that is because of
peer pressure, man.
People worry
It's a rough place to be, because I know I was one of those kids. You know, I mean, I know we jump into bullying now, but I was one of those kids who got bullied a lot, especially as my siblings kind of left the home. You know, I was by myself, so you know, and just being a person who's been victimized for and not even knowing why. You know what I mean? Like those, I can see how you know, I mean, that's another conversation for another day.
Yeah, but when you're young, you don't know why
Yeah.
anything happens
Yeah.
to you. Really,
Right.
you're young.
Most of the time it's because they envy you.
It's something
because
about
of something
you. Yeah.
that's
Something.
good about you
Mm-hmm.
that they wish they had or they wish they were like. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, it's yeah,
Yep.
And kids really, and sometimes that bullying behavior they learn from home,
true.
you know, and take it out there and victimize other kids. And kids really, they just do what they want to do because they don't understand the
They don't
consequences.
understand.
Yeah. But if we were to tackle the bullying situation, and I know it's a topic for another day, interestingly, but we also have to watch how we interact with our kids. You know, what we say to our kids. Do we bully our kids, right? Do we
Not
teach our
intentionally,
kids?
but
Yeah,
we do.
not intentionally, but we have to be aware, right? You know, like if the kids are not getting along and you come and say, you stand up for yourself, you know, fight back, or all of that, even though we think it's a good thing to be. You know, when the kids start standing up and they get better at it, you know what I'm saying, and they
Right.
don't know when to stop, and now start taking that behavior to the parking lot where now they're bullying other kids.
Right.
You know what I'm
Right.
saying? So
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm not saying there's a right way to do it. I'm just saying like it's worth, you know, really analyzing how you raise your kids, how you, you know, exposing your kids to. And some people literally just teach their kids to be bullies, you know, and we've seen that.
Yeah.
But a lot of people, they who they most upset with is not other kids,
Yeah.
right? Other kids they remember and they share stories. It's adults who did nothing about it. People often share about their teachers who didn't do anything about it. In a marriage situation, kids that you know are grown now, my colleagues sometimes they be so upset about one of the parents who didn't do anything when they were bullied by either you know a parent or step parent or what have you.
Right. Right.
So it goes on and on, but the bottom line is that people get more upset with people with authority who choose to ignore
Yeah.
when they're going through that, when they could actually intervene and make their lives better.
Right. So on that
All
note,
That's all the way, no, but that's all the way around.
Yeah.
though.
Yeah,
That's
That could
yeah,
be
it is.
everyday life, at the job. I mean,
Yeah,
it covers all the way around.
right.
yeah,
And,
yeah.
and that falls into the core values because that's what I just wrote down here. So so tonight's, I think we want everything to kind of fall back into the core values. So as we talking and let's try to relate it back to these core
Yeah,
values
the
that
guiding
that
principles.
we are encouraging for other people because when you talk about bullying and bullying prevention, you know, that I think is tied to love as well, right? Because I know for me,
Loyalty.
when we were doing the bullying prevention forums and things, one of the things that I used to really believe strongly after talking to so many people was that, you know, bullies are generally bullied at home, whether it's by siblings or by their parents or some part of their world is kind of facilitating that behavior. And I said, people who are loved and cared for and, you know, all they know is love,
Heard,
it would be
seen.
extremely hard for that person to be a bully, right? And so that's what I like would encourage people to do is just really kind of evaluate the love relationship you have with your child or with your spouse because especially as a father, you know, discipline, right? We have discipline relationships, you know, that's something we can talk a lot about easily. But what are the love relationships really like? Because the love transcends the discipline, right? Because you can love people through their problems and things like, you know what I'm saying? So, so I really think that, you know, when we talk about, well, really any of these core values, they really kind of integrity, you know, honesty, respect, like all of those really kind of tie back into bullying as well.
Right.
So without turning this into a bullying prevention forum,
That's
I think
nice.
that was definitely value added. So, and by the way, for those of you who are watching or who will be watching, if bullying is an issue for you, whether your child or someone in your life is a bully or is currently being bullied, there are resources that you can tap into that can help you with establishing conversations with your spouse or with your children to try to help understand what's happening with them, as well as different ways that you might be able to address it. We did create a bullying prevention guide for parents, kids, and adults. And so that is something that, as I said, if you're interested, by all means, you can inbox me or direct message me, and we can see to it that you get a copy of that. So, moving on, what I was mentioning about the core values, it made me think about something that we all know this individual, I think personally to some extent. But his theory is, and you can even speak to this because you and I have had this conversation here recently, about keeping the money in the family.
Yeah.
And what does that mean to you?
To me,
Yeah.
it's creating like, don't leave our kids like dumb, because I mean there's so much to learn out there, and because I'm speaking from my
Right.
own experience, I wish I had that guidance
Right.
of knowledge, to share, and so I could pass it on, so for me it's like they could take everything away from me, but they can't take it away my knowledge.
Right.
So the more knowledge I get and I'm able to pass it on to my son, it's worth more than money to me.
Okay. Okay. All right. What about you?
One thing that stands out to me when you say that is generational wealth. Is ensuring that they're going to be okay, even if you're not here.
Yeah.
And that's one thing that a lot of people, a lot of people go to work every day to provide for their family and for their kids without passing that knowledge on how to go get it. So back to what JoJo said and what you said, I see generational wealth.
All right. What about you, Dr. Hill?
Wow. Yeah. So financial intelligence, right?
Yeah.
That knowledge. What financial intelligence skills are we teaching our kids? And teaching them, it's because I will think about my kids. If you sit them down and say, hey, I'm going to teach you all this stuff about finances. They want to be like, yeah, okay. They're on their cell phone like, that was nice, Mom, but I can just look it up on TikTok and everywhere else.
Yeah.
So it goes down to like practicing it.
Yep.
Right?
Execute
You can
it.
give them the knowledge, but you have to
Teach
make
them how to
sure that
execute it.
yeah, how to apply the knowledge you're
Yeah.
giving, because knowledge is power, but if without application, really, how powerful is it?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
There
So
you go.
we do that by teaching them the value of saving their money and having a goal, right?
Learning how to
also-
use that as
Yeah.
a tool.
As a tool, exactly.
Yeah, because money is really a tool.
Yeah, because no matter how shiny that toy is or how much you can buy that thing and get another for 50% off, the minute you bought that, whether you need it or want it, because those are two different things, right? You're buying it because you really need it or you just want it. Or is that something that all your friends have? Now you must have it. And that thing does not have value. You can't even get $5 at a garage sale after you spend all your $100 on it.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So those kind of conversations that we need to have with
That's
our
a big
kids.
thing right there.
Right,
Do
exactly.
you
Because
need it or do you want it?
right. And once you spend that
Right.
money, remember now you are $100 less. You have $100 less. Somebody else that you spend that money on, they have $100 more. So what they do with that money as you spend, right? They invest that money, build businesses, and then they hire your children. You're spending all this money sending them to Harvard just to graduate and work for people who knows the importance of money and generational wealth. So there's a lot to cover there, but it starts with how what we teach our children,
How
and
we
how
use
we
those
apply,
How you use those
Application.
tools. Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. So that's all of those things make so much sense, right? One of the things that I guess my little nuance, right? When I think about keeping the money in the family, I think about it in a more conventional sense, like definitely generational wealth, right? But I'm thinking about stuff on a real basic fundamental level, right? In our case of our family, we homeschool. So we could either take time away from work and do the homeschooling, ourselves, or we could allow our child to just fall behind and do the best that they can do. Or since we have other children in the house, other
Yeah.
siblings in the house that are looking for jobs,
Right.
right? Instead of sending them out of the house to go get a job, we can keep them here and employ them within the house by offsetting some of the responsibility that we have, right? So that, you know, they college graduates already, so now they're able to help out within the home, help us save a little bit of money, help them make a little bit of money, help create a healthy environment for our child, you know what I mean? So it's like a win-win
Yeah,
kind of
yeah.
thing, right?
Yeah.
And I think about that same with child care, babysitting.
Right.
I think about that with lawn mowing and snow, you know, like, you know, I come from a small family, so all of this stuff that I'm talking about, man, is really me like dreaming about if life was like. But when I think about what I kind of define family as and what I aspire for with my family is having like the more skills that you have, and that's going to be kind of the next thing that I talk about is useful skill sets, right? Like because our kids, they have just like we did. We had a vision of I want to be, and whatever. Maybe you heard somebody who told you, you know, they make a lot of money, so you want to be it because of that, or maybe it's some genuine connection to what you do. But I think, you know, really concentrating on trying to create a community structure within your own household, right? Where we can all depend on each other. You know what I'm saying? Because it's so easy for kids and even adults to look at stuff like it's chores instead of looking at it like it's a contribution to
Everybody's
the outcome that we're looking for, right? The outcome might be we
Yeah.
all want to go to Disney World, right? Well, if I got to sweep and mop and do this and do that, by the time we get out the door, we might not make it. See what I mean? So rather than us operating like that in our day-to-day life, let's have some common goals in the family that include the kids.
Yeah.
What is the goal of our family? How can you help us get there? How can mom and dad do it? How, you see what I'm saying? And like,
it'll make it easier that way too.
Yeah.
Make life easier.
and talking to your children, like some people agree, some people disagree, and hey, to each his own.
Yeah.
But
Like grown people.
yeah, I mean, because they are like that's one of the things that we found with the bullying prevention. It's like the same stuff that happened to a kid is the same stuff that happened to an adult. It's the same stuff that happened to a senior citizen. See what I mean? So why would we want to dumb it down for someone who is learning the most in the smallest amount of time, which is young people as they coming up? Them first couple of years, let's say 5 years, they learning the bulk of the things that they're gonna deal with for the rest of their life. You know what I mean? And so
Good point.
communicating with them like that, organizing their life in a way where it's goal oriented and structured, you know, or not even really structured because it's like you can do a lot of stuff kind of, what do you say, hocus pocus change the focus.
On the fly, yeah.
Right, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like you be twinkling over here, but you really got something else going
Yeah.
over there. And I
Yeah.
think our children, man, and the older I get, the more I realize that they are really the future in ways that I didn't relate to in the past, like really, really. And so we putting so much stock and so much energy into, you know, young adults and older people trying to make them into who we think they ought to be, right? But the real, I think, job is to ensure that them little people who are working on developing all of those skills, that's where the energy need to be spent. Not to say that we should forget about the other people, but like really the bulk of our energy, the bulk of our resources should be going towards making sure that that next generation is really set on the things that we're not doing.
Whether it's your kids or somebody else's.
And that's,
Because those
yes.
other people's kids may be those very people when they grow, when
You
your
got it.
kids grow up to help you through those mazes in life. You never know who that person's gonna be. Your professor, your best friend, your family. You know,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
good point, man. I like
That is, you took the words right out my mouth, man. Go ahead.
No, so you gotta teach them also. We gotta teach them when they are still young, because I think for us something that we could have done better when they were young. We were still trying to make it, right.
Figure it
Paying mortgages. We're both working, and then we're going to daycare. By the time they come home, everybody's home at 6 o'clock. You make dinner. You help them with their homework. You bathe them, and then they go to sleep. And then the following day they go back to the world. You know, so really the outside world is spending more time with your child because of the way we are structured, you know,
Right.
in most countries.
Yeah.
Right.
So when do you have time to really teach all this wisdom that we're talking about, whether it's financial intelligence, emotional intelligence, integrity, all these wonderful things, right? Unless you are extremely aware and intentional about it. But majority of people, the average person, you just trying to make it, to survive and provide. And that's why we miss that
And
opportunity
you forget to
to
engage
pass
with your.
on those skill sets. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Hey, I just want to take a moment real quick, y'all, to say hi to everybody that has tuned in. Hey, I just want to thank everyone. I see we got Tracy, we got L.R. Carpenter, we got Sharice Johnson, we got Deborah Cooper, the Rashad Branch. Okay, my man, what's going on? And the one and only Chanel Coleman Wesley. Thank all of y'all for joining us tonight in this live.
Absolutely.
I don't know if you caught the first part or not, but we are definitely open to any questions, any comments, or feedback that you might have. This conversation is centered around the business of family, so we're talking a little bit about both business and family and how to organize and set up your, I guess, your life in a way, right? Because listening to what you were just saying a moment ago, it just makes me think that how important you really set an example, because everything that we saying really starts with the individual. So you said intentional, right? An intentional effort, and I think that's like one of the most important things. Is like once you recognize something, right? You then now it becomes, now the work is there. Now you have to intentionally change or alter how you do things to manifest what it is you want. And so just like we're talking about with young people, by us loving on them, right? Loving them through the things that they're experiencing, which is probably similar to many of the things that we've experienced. You know, I think are just really, really important pieces to mention. And so we talked about useful skill sets just briefly.
Yeah.
And my point for mentioning that is, you know, you were talking about the knowledge that you can give being invaluable.
Yeah.
Right, and I totally agree with that, because some things you can't pay for, you know, and so let's just kick that one down the field a little bit. What skill sets do you all think are really important? And I'm not going to say male or female, right, because you know, from the guys we're going to probably say, but let's try to think of like a generalized skill that is useful for all people. You know, young people in particular, but you know, something that maybe all people could benefit. Anybody can.
Number one, communication.
Okay.
Communication, whether it's amongst each other, communication, a team, employer, boss, whatever it may be. Communication. I think
Open communication.
open communication
Okay.
is
Learning how to
verbal
approach,
communication
for
amongst,
sure.
you know.
Yeah.
I think that's very important.
Okay. All right. What about you, Jojo?
I agree with what I'm saying, that not just communication, how do you, like, learning how to approach people too, like how to interact with, because, I mean, I'm sorry, but nowadays, this is messed up. Like, people don't want to, they don't want to interact with anybody anymore.
Yeah.
Because of what went on,
Yeah.
with, you know, but now we got to teach our kids how to interact with other kids
Right. Imagine
and
that,
other
man.
people.
Yeah. It's a scary place,
Yeah.
man.
Yeah.
That's
You gotta teach. That's one thing, is like learning how to actually be able to interact with that person. Like, how can I approach this person?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because some people, they're
Not approachable.
not easy to approach.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Hey, I'm not guilty of that, but some
Yeah.
people say I am, and I think I'm the easy. I think I'm the friendliest, nicest person. But you know, some folks say, "Man, you could be a little difficult to." I'm like, "Again, my first time." What do you mean? And they're like, "Right there." I see what I mean.
It's that face making, yeah.
Fingers out the forehead.
Right. So.
I
See,
hear
for
you.
me, it's different.
Yeah.
Like, people find like but it's, I don't know. It's probably my personality, whatever. But I'm easy. People find that they approach me for even dumb things. But, and it's crazy, but that people find me easy to approach. But my own kids are like, "Oh no, you're hard." Like, come on,
Right,
dude.
right.
Really? Are you serious?
Yeah,
That's
I've
true.
heard that one.
Yeah.
You were gonna say something?
Oh, I was gonna say, yeah, absolutely. I agree with effective communication, right?
Mhm.
And some of us don't know when to stop communicating, right? Yeah, I know. I can over communicate. A weakness that I'm working on.
Sounds like a commercial.
Didn't we talk about accountability?
We need those
This
sound
is part of
effects.
holding myself
Hey,
accountable.
hey.
When you know you over communicate, you're honest about it, right?
Yeah,
you say,
yeah,
hey,
you
I
gotta-
know this is my weakness.
Yeah.
I'm gonna hold myself accountable.
Yeah.
Plus, I'm gonna be honest about it,
Right.
Yeah.
and I'm going to try my best to say less, do more of a listening than talking. So anyway, with all of that, communication, to your point, is extremely important. Especially in marriage, let alone how we communicate with
Yeah,
our
so
children.
true.
Our children, one of the things that they remind me now, my children, a couple of them are in college and what have you, they remind us that their favorite part is when they came home, from school. We bathe them and everything like that, and then we sit on the table, having dinner together, and we'll go, around the room, talking about how their day was, and we'll take turns, and then we'll take turns sharing. And that's how we found out what was going on with our children at school. That's how we learned that some of them were being bullied.
I don't know. But
And so-
I know that's like disappearing
Yeah.
in houses.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it doesn't happen anymore because it's kids. They want to be in their own gadgets and
Yeah,
all of that.
that's
But
nuts.
it was one of the things that they found valuable, and so yeah, allowing them, giving them a voice. Allowing them to tell us what's going on in their lives.
Yeah.
Are they happy? Are they stressed? What's going? Do they need help academically? So
Man,
yeah,
that's- you know
it's
what's-
so important.
you just made me think of a really important point too, in the communication side of things, is allowing your children to communicate.
Yeah.
Because I can think of
Yeah,
many a
no
times
voice.
where I was shut down from trying to state my case. Like shut up. You do this. I don't want to hear. Like those kind of things. Like that. All of those types of responses kind of create a stress environment, and I get it because many times the parents are stressed already, and they're like, I don't got time for this. But again, the older I get, man, and the more that I look at things. Those moments in your life where you felt that way, like you didn't have time for something, man, whatever that something was probably the most important thing that you could have spent that time on at that moment. You know what I mean? And you neglected to do that because you are holding things at a different level in terms of priorities. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I often say this about our job, or about employment when I'm talking to people, how we do so much to please the boss. We'll eat a poop sandwich, like I'm being a little silly.
With
I
mustard.
don't think
But
my
I'm saying,
employees
yeah,
do
with
this, but
mustard.
okay.
No,
With
I'm saying like you
I get you. Yeah.
yeah, you do a lot of things, you put up with a lot of things, you take a lot of things that are not fair, that you shouldn't have to, all because of that carrot, right? And if you ever blessed to be in a position where you have carrots and you don't have to be chasing them, those are the moments where you have a time to kind of decompress and realize what I'm saying, man. Like some of those things where I thought, going to get that check was more important than staying here and addressing this issue. And then it come back to see me a year, 2 years, or whatever down the line. And then we're saying, oh man, it's, you can't go back and change the past, right?
Nope.
So knowing that, I think is super critical for us to take an intentional effort with young people to try and make sure they seize every single one of those moments, right? By not limiting them. And that's what I'm saying about allowing them to communicate with you, right? Because even though they might not have the words necessarily to articulate it to you in a way that is going to make all of the sense and cover all of the bases, you training them to do just that, to
be able to
express
do that,
themselves.
yeah.
You know what I mean? To
Yeah.
be able to talk to authority and still feel enough confidence to say what you got to say.
Yeah.
Because that what we don't realize is when we shut them down and we make them smaller and smaller
You're
and smaller.
programming them.
Yeah,
It's
you
like
program 'em.
programming them.
Exactly.
to do. Yeah.
Exactly.
And
So
that can have a long-lasting effect,
absolutely.
right?
What?
Lance
if
just
you
said
take-
here. Oh, I'm
yeah.
sorry.
Go ahead. I'm
Lance
listening.
just said here. I'm looking at the comments. He said my kids are super active and outgoing, so they're very good with interacting with others and communicating their feelings with us. A little too comfortable at times. So how do you balance letting you know when you teaching your kids to interact with people and communicate with people, that balance, that not too much but just enough, what's that?
Man,
You know,
that's a
what-
good question.
I,
You got go for it.
to me, if they're confident enough to, but I mean, you don't just go blab or whatever out confidently to anybody.
Right.
But if with my kids, I'm happy that they are able to do,
Yeah.
be confident to talk to me freely.
Mhm.
That's awesome for me. But to do it outside the house in a way that's respectful, like don't be ignorant, because I mean, just there's a lot of things that anybody could say that will offend anybody. Not especially nowadays.
Right.
Right.
Everybody's real sensitive
Oh
nowadays.
yeah.
There's a
Exactly.
lot of people sensitive out there.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think, the balance there really is that it's okay to give children the voice.
Yeah.
It's another to guide them to know what's acceptable and what's not.
Right.
To teach them respect and integrity while we're at it, right?
Yeah.
So I don't think we have to take away their voice
Right.
because it's being used inappropriately. What we need to teach them is to use that voice appropriately,
Exactly.
effectively, with respect.
Mhm.
And that's just being kind to each other. You can't disrespect people simply because you have the ability to articulate yourself more than others
Right.
and so forth.
Right.
So I think that the balance really is just to guide them and teach them how to use that voice respectfully.
I mean, yeah, but I think the question that you're saying is like how to find that balance, man. I don't know that.
I don't think
That's
there's even
something-
a balance.
Yeah, I was gonna say I'm not sure that's something you can teach. Really,
Yeah,
I
but-
think it's like it's learned, right? Because it's like well, maybe not learned. Like there's some things I'm sure you could say to like turn some lights on, if you will. But depending on because when I say to communicate, it's not just emotions, right? It's
Right.
just the ability to speak up for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
I think that trying to determine what's important or what's not is almost kind of like what I'm hearing, and I'm not saying that's what you're saying, but that's almost how it comes across. And another thing that I think I'm hearing too is that what you got to be careful for is you can't share your opinion with everybody, right? Because you got sensitivities and you got all of
Yeah.
that.
Some
So-
people are too sensitive.
So the way that I would answer that really would become more. It would be, I think, by being an example, right?
Lead by
Yeah.
example.
So if we're gonna talk about, communicating, I'm gonna communicate with you, which is what I was saying when I'm talking to Kia. I'm gonna talk to you like I want you to talk to me. Not like, hey, you don't talk to me like that. Talk to me like, you know what I mean? Like in a manner that I can understand, and then I can, I can ponder it, and then I can work my way
But
through it.
what if that's my comfortable voice? What if that is all I know right then how to communicate? So help me communicate
Well, then you just have to
effectively.
do the best you can.
Hey,
I'm just saying, if I open my mouth, all you hear is you want to help the sister out.
Yeah, I was,
Like communicate with me in a way that I understand.
I want to
It's
get
like,
you a
where
typewriter.
is that possible?
You'll work it out.
Yeah, all I'm saying is like, empathy, right? Because when we
Yeah.
talk about
Empathy.
yeah, empathy
Key word,
is very
yeah.
important.
Good key word right there.
Yeah, because not everybody is quick on their toes. You're right. Particularly for us, where English is our 8th, 10th language, you might not be able to express yourself
Yeah.
as easily as somebody who's born speaking English.
Yeah.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So showing empathy and then extending grace
Yeah.
to try to understand that person, not finishing their sentences for them because they're not stupid. It's not like they don't know how to express themselves. It's just that sometimes they may be caught in emotions at the time, or maybe they can't find that English word that just sums it.
Yeah.
So they
Yeah.
tends to be wordy. Lindy Way. So,
All right, Lindy Way.
You're not the only one guilty of that, because I've got that shot to me too, where like they say it's not what you say, it's how you say it.
Oh,
You know?
That part.
Yeah.
And then, sometimes I express myself with like very emotional, like
right.
strong, but I don't mean it in that way. It just comes out that way because that's how I act. That's how I speak.
Right.
Absolutely.
Hey, well, ladies and gentlemen, we winding down. As y'all can see, we are getting
Yeah.
close to it. The hour goes by fast.
Yeah.
There's a couple things though before we go that I want to get in the habit of. Right, we want to leave people with some gold nuggets. We want to do that. But there's something that we didn't. The useful skill set, we kind of got trapped there under a couple of things because where I really was wanting to go into was actual skill sets like plumbing, electric, different things like that can make the family kind of self-sufficient. So hypothetically, somebody knows how to plant, somebody knows how to build, somebody, you know what I mean? Like, and I know that.
You don't know,
Gardening, you answered your own question.
Yeah, well,
Agriculture, gardening,
all of that.
self-sustaining things like that. Live off the land.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So we're gonna come back to that next week. So our subject next week is going to be useful skill sets and how families and businesses can benefit from that. Okay. So write that down, and so that'll be during this week. We'll be able to. Well, you can write it down on your hand.
That's a useful skill.
Hey, he lost the credit for not
Write it down on my hand, not put it on my phone.
But all right, so let's end this on a nice little powerful piece though. So we got the gold nugget. So y'all be thinking about that. But the last piece that I want to end on here is talking about the dynamics of husbands and wives, right? Or married couples, let's just say, working as a team in business and at home. Okay, and the reason why I'm posing it like that because my own personal feelings about it may differ from you all, but I want to try to extract from you.
Yeah.
How does that resonate with you?
Like, what you mean? How does it resonate?
Well, when it comes to your household, how do the dynamics of you and your wife working together to accomplish whatever your goal is. You can say business, but the business we just talking about structure. That's all we talking about. So you and your wife coming together, right? Like let's say the goal is to make $100. Do y'all come together and say, hey, what ideas do you have? And then y'all sit there and maybe do a brainstorm to try to figure out how many ways y'all can come and do it collectively, or is the ball thrown to her and she got to figure it out for herself, or does she throw the ball to you? You got to figure it out for yourself. Like that's what I'm trying to talk about. Them dynamics.
How do you collaborate?
Shoot, in my household is really hasn't been that very. There's no communication in that side when it comes down to it.
Okay.
Like if we plan something, I like the way I like doing things is different from how Shay likes doing things.
Of course.
So I like we sit down, write it down, and we'll try to figure out right there. It's like that. We got a plan, then we go execute it. Boom.
Something that kind of accommodates your ideal and her ideal.
Yeah. So we make a plan, then we execute. But like she works her way of working things different. That's why I like doing like we do it together right there on one table. Like that we got a plan. Now we're gonna execute.
Walk away with a gender language.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. What about you, Rob?
I'm single.
So you're just
So therefore,
conversation.
with that being said, me being single,
Oh, you gotta get that little
I've learned, but you know what though? I can honestly say I felt and bumped my head more than you guys have. So I probably can tell you a lot more on what not to do.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
I didn't know if you were just letting the world know.
No. I'm single because I want to be single.
Okay, all right.
But that being said, no. But in seriousness,
I thought you were about to put your number out there. So I know what you was doing.
1-800.
Okay. I know, right?
Hey, now.
1-800 green.
But you know,
Yeah.
all them things that we talked about, that building that structure and stuff, it comes back to those core values, and those are things that I was lacking and missing to build those relationships in that business with my family. You know, so all those core values are very important when it comes to building the structure for family or business.
Right.
Yeah.
Just to give you an example why the core values are so important.
All right, Doc. What do you got?
Wow, same thing that we always talk about, that I will do my best, since I have a big mouth, to open my mouth and let you know what I would like and how I would like for things to proceed, instead of making you jump through mental gymnastics, to figure out what's wrong with me, what I want. So I like the fact that you and I will sit down at the table and make prioritize everything that we want to accomplish, whether it's regarding our kids, or how we want to relate to one another. How do we resolve conflicts, between you and I, agreeing not to go to bed, angry, things like that, agreeing not to stay angry for too long.
That's healthy.
And, with that strengthening that communication.
Right.
So that's really important. And also, most importantly, how do we spend our money, our finances, our finance decisions.
Right.
My husband and I come together and we write things down and decide together how we want to spend our money, basically.
Or make that money,
works out a
because
lot.
it might
And
not
make
be
that
spending.
money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And see, that
But
goes
then-
back to, we had a conversation, I don't know if you remember, Robert, about, doing things that if you can't do what you want to, and that time that you have time to do things, then at least tackle things that you can, like you said, prioritizing things that are
Right.
tangible, things that you can grasp quickly and get accomplished quickly.
Right.
So
Right.
I would definitely say I lost my train of thought there.
Yeah.
But,
But that's
No,
okay.
it works as long as
That's
he does
okay.
what I tell him to
Yeah.
do. It works out all the time. It never fails.
Ain't that something? All right, so my 2 cents, and again, y'all keep mine on y'all nugget, okay? Because this is gonna be the last piece, and then we're gonna close it out, okay? So for me, what I guess how I kind of see those dynamics, in our relationship, right? I don't know if I should pose this as what my current situation is, or what I hope it to be. So I think I'll say what I think I hope it to be, because I feel like that would be moving into the right direction from where we are,
Forward.
right? So what my aspirations are for not just my relationship, but when I see other husbands and wives, is that there would be some level of true love, right? Because we all say we love each other, but that love gets convoluted sometimes when you don't do what the other person want, when they want, you know what I'm saying, right? So if there's genuine love there that is stronger than those types of moments of life, right? Then you can move into the realm of where I think I would like to be. And where I would like to be is in a place where we are both working towards a common goal, and we both working towards individual goals, right? Whether they're self-improvement, career, whatever it might be. So we can work together and identify your strengths and weaknesses, identify my strengths and weaknesses,
Right.
and you do what you can do to help us get there, while I'm doing what I can do to help us get there. And why I'm saying it like that is because what we tend to do as people is we limit ourselves to only doing what we want to do. The hard stuff we don't want to do. We quick to push that off on the next person. Now, that's cute, right? Sometimes, but in reality, cause my mind, and I know this sounds crazy, but in my mind, I'm a father. I got 5 kids. I'm a husband, right? One day I'm not gonna be here.
Yeah.
So that could be tomorrow, or it could be in 100 years, whatever. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
But
yeah.
for me, as a parent and as a husband, my first thoughts is, what are y'all gonna do if something happened to me? Right?
We'll make sure nothing happened to you. That's
Well,
what we-
ideally, but I'm
Yeah,
just
yeah.
saying, you
Yeah, no, I
gotta
hear you.
have the mindset of doing all that you can do
Yeah.
to get to that goal
Yeah.
collectively, right?
Right.
And so, by you supporting me in the areas that I want to be supported, and not just the areas that you think I need to be supported,
Right.
or
Right.
the areas that you want to support me.
Right.
See what I mean? Because that's where lots of marriages and relationships break down. Is one of the parties is only doing what they want to do. They're not necessarily doing what the other party wants them to do. And that could be because they don't know how to ask, right?
Yeah.
Because that
Communication.
you talk about communication. Some folks don't know how to articulate their feelings and emotions so that they can get
Or
what they want.
or you could try to communicate and they don't understand the way you're communicating too.
Yeah.
Because, like I said, like when I talk, sometimes they take it in a wrong way because of the way I'm saying it.
Right.
Right. Instead of seeking clarification.
Yeah.
So
Right.
I think what my husband is also sharing here is like he love people the way they want to be loved, not the way you want to love them.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? So if you open, enough to learn how this person want to be loved, and I have a responsibility too to say, hey, this is how I want to be loved, instead of him trying so hard to figure it out. You know, what motivates me, what activates me,
Yeah.
what makes me feel comfortable in it. It's my responsibility
You know, but
to tell him.
show them that.
Yeah, so ways holding us accountable is that once you tell him that, then it's his job to make sure that he loves me and support me the way I want to be supported, and vice versa. I have to do the same thing.
Yeah.
So as he eloquently said it, that's something that we are aware of between each other, and we're working towards that. Because it's so easy for me to say, hey, my love language is, speaking of love language, it's a really good book about that. My love language is to make dinner for him. What if he doesn't want to eat dinner because he's a better cook than me? And that's true. He cooks better than me. So I'm not communicating, right? And his love language is like, you know what? I'm going to make our house so beautiful. I'm going to make sure that our landscaping is, on point. And all I need was to talk because I had a stressful day. But he's busy cutting grass. You see how you can go total different directions? It just does not mean that you don't love each other.
Right.
It's just that you don't understand each other's love language. And you will know it when you talk and being this
point.
transparent
Right.
with one another. So
Good point.
that's it.
Communication. All right. So
Communication.
that's I think an excellent point to end on. So let's open up real quick for the nuggets. And since you just finished off, we'll jump over here to Rob Green
Absolutely.
and let Rob Green bless us with his gold nugget for the evening. His platinum nugget for the evening.
Wow.
His diamond
Yeah,
nugget for the
You were
evening.
writing things down.
Those aren't nuggets.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. Okay. You need a moment, man?
My golden nugget with today is just one word: preparation.
Preparation. Okay.
Because you have to prepare yourself for any situation or anything that you're coming into, especially if you're not familiar with it,
Right.
or something that's unfamiliar you're unfamiliar with.
Right.
Prepare yourself for those things, or at least learn how to prepare for those things, what you have to do to prepare for them, and then start doing that.
Okay.
So preparation.
Yeah.
Hey, and as JoJo said last week, find a mentor, right?
Find a minute.
That'll help you get prepared.
Yeah.
All right,
Good kick in the butt.
There you go.
Oh.
Yeah.
What size shoe you wear?
It's huge.
No, I gotta find another mentor.
All right, JoJo, what about you?
keep on seeking for knowledge and information, because like I said, it's like they could take away everything from you, but they cannot take away your knowledge.
Seeking knowledge, man. I think that's a powerful one. I mean,
Absolutely.
and I'm seeing how these are coming together, because preparation, right, and seeking knowledge, those go hand in hand, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Doc,
Absolutely.
on you.
And learn to apply that knowledge. It's one thing to
Amen.
acquire it, but application is very important.
Man, the last going in on you, boy.
What do you say?
I said, man, at least give us a chicken nugget.
Hey, they got
Yeah, you wrote them down.
chicken nugget. Robert said give a golden nugget. The chicken nuggets that he made were burnt. They weren't not golden.
They became
They were-
roughage.
That's funny. All right, so we got preparation, seeking knowledge. I'm sorry, what was it?
Application.
Application.
Apply that knowledge, because
Okay.
accumulating knowledge and you don't know how to apply that knowledge, it does not make that knowledge
one.
as useful.
Good one.
But
yeah.
really, I want to say empathy.
Empathy.
Empathy is very important in everything that you do. Picture yourself to be on other person's shoe.
Mm-hmm.
And ask yourself, if I was that person, will I treat me this way? Will this feel good?
Yeah.
So empathy is very important in everything that we do.
Put yourself in the other person's shoes.
Shoe.
Foot powder first. Put yourself in the other person's shoes.
Yeah.
Definitely foot powder first. That's hilarious. That's hilarious. All right. Well, those are all really, really good. And again, when I look at what we have, we got seeking the knowledge, right? First, which will help us get prepared, right? And the more prepared we are, the easier it will be for us to apply, right?
Right.
The knowledge that we've gained. And if we use empathy as we're traveling and engaging and interacting with other people, that sets us up for high quality relationships, whether it's with our children, with our spouses, or
With self.
Especially with yourself, because that's the biggest battle, right? Is overcoming self. And as a matter of fact,
Practice makes perfect.
yeah, I think that's gonna, I'm gonna steal that one. That's gonna be what I close on.
My nugget. He stole my nugget.
That's right. Why you ain't got none, right?
Careful,
No.
you can burn it.
But yes, I think self-confidence, man. You know, I won't just say self, but I'll say self-confidence, because all of these things, you know, getting prepared, seeking that knowledge, applying that knowledge, all of those things, it takes a level of self-confidence to
And
know,
determination.
and determination to know that, one, the journey to seek it is worthy, and once you have obtained that, and to now apply it is life changing, right?
Because you can have a lot of all the knowledge and don't know how to use it. Like,
Yeah.
That's right.
like
That's
you,
right.
Exactly.
you
Yeah.
could be reading the instructions and like still mess up.
You got it. You got it. So, ladies and gentlemen, we're coming to a close this evening for our second episode of Conversations Under the Hood, live tonight. Very thankful for all of our wonderful hosts here. We have Dr. Lindy Way Helm. We have Mr. George Jojo Sanchez. And the one and only Robert Got to Be Green.
Yeah.
Compass Ion.
That's it. Hey, AKA Compass Ion, and your host, Robert Helm. Thank you for joining us tonight, and we look forward to another great episode 3, next week. And we're going to pick up where we left off on useful skill sets for our family.
Right.
Yep. Yeah. Oh, yeah. What'd you say? Like it, subscribe. What else you can do? Share, and everything else. Thank you.
Yeah.
Have a good night,
Like,
everyone.
subscribe, and
Shout out
share.
GTPI, Lance
Hey,
Carpenter.
Where y'all hoods at, baby? We in the hood. Conversation in the
There we
hood.
go.
All right, y'all gotta put on your Oh, Stella in here. Good night, everybody.